Hello and welcome. Today we're here at Ticor Title with Haylie and Ryan. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Good deal. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your business, please?
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Yes,
I
sir.
am Ryan Lipsey with Ticor, and I've been doing it since 2001. We help real estate agents, commercial brokers, anybody in the real estate space with their settlement services. We tend to focus a lot on business origination strategies with our realtors, and we help a lot of people get where they're going, so we get to go where we're going.
Yeah, my name's Haylie Collier. I have been doing it now for almost 11 years. I came from the title background, so I ran documents, I looked over reports, I did a lot of things on the back end with running title, and then now have been more on the business development side with our clients for the past 7 years. And really what we do is, Ryan said how we help, but really what we do for your clients too, Tua, is we insure the American dream. So we insure the properties of coming into title, making sure that they're all taken care of free and clear. So that's what we like to say, is that we insure the American dream.
Perfect. I love it. Now, can you walk me through the title insurance process from start to finish, please?
Sure. So let's say the property hits the market, has a willing buyer, gets under contract, goes into escrow. What happens?
Yeah, so when the property gets into escrow, the listing agent will have choose settlement services, and then we run the full report. So what we do is we look on anything that's ever been recorded on the property, and we tell escrow if there's any items that need to be cleared up. So if there's a mortgage that the seller has that needs to be paid off, they will take care of that, order the demands, get that cleared up. And then escrow really runs the ship with the lender and getting the wires, everything kind of coordinated. Tells the title, hey, we're good to record, let us get it set up. So what that means is it records with the county, and then it closes, and then the new buyer comes in. So there's a lot of back end movement, but It's pretty easy start to finish. Escrow runs it.
Yeah, and that's a purchase and then a refinance, but the lender is coming in to issue a new loan on the property that's secured against the property. So of course we run a title insurance search on the background of the property, and in both cases we ensure a clean bill of health on the title as it passes into the new lender in the case of a refi, or the new buyer and incoming lender in the case of a purchase. So nothing will survive the close of escrow in terms of the title.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, what distinguishes your company from other title companies in terms of, let's say, service and expertise?
Well, I think for title companies in general, we all really do the same thing. We insure the properties. It's like Geico, State Farm, Century 21. They all really do the same thing, but it's who you work with is who matters. Because for Tua and for clients for you, you have somebody that you can call if there is a title problem that's going on, if there's something that needs to be worked out a little bit longer. You need to make sure that you do work with a team who is on it, who's going to always be available. And we know the best ability is availability for you and your clients.
Well, and Ticor has a parent company in Haylie National Financial, which is a large financial institution. So they have the backing to make you feel secure, but they run it with the ability of the salespeople and local underwriting guidelines, so that you have the best of both worlds in terms of a small kind of company feel with a big company security. That's one of the benefits of going with Ticor, is that we have huge financial backing, but they run it as a kind of a boutique type customer service feel, which is really nice for the people that interface with the title company.
Good deal. Wow. Now, how do you ensure the accuracy and the thoroughness of the title search?
Well, we have a whole staff of 60-some people behind here that do everything from the researching of the property down to the, when the abstracting of title, and run the security, social security numbers and the APNs to see the full financial history and physical history of the property, and any liens or clouds on title prior to moving forward in the transaction, all the way back to the previous title insurance. So we've got really good staff that are trained, and Haylie was a clerk on the actual desk and did a lot of this work and oversaw that, right?
Yeah, so I could say that I insured a lot of these on my own, knowing that I have the full backing. So to your answer, Tua, by having amazing people, making sure
Amazing people.
that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. So no, all jokes aside, we do have amazing staffing coming in our company. We do take certain protocols, so it typically goes up to the past insurance. So if they were insured on a refinance, we go and look at where it was last insured, because that means it was insured up to that point.
Right.
So we are able to trust through other title companies that if it was insured by a refinance through 2018, everything prior to 2018 has been cleared, so we can move forward from 2018. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Now, what types of title insurance have you encountered most in this area, and how were they resolved?
I think you mean title issues, and we see a lot with trusts and people passing away and not having a final will and testament in a trust, that there's a lot of cleanup to do there when there's a break in the chain of title. You have a lot of uninsured deeds that happen in and out of transactions where people add a family member or remove a family member or remove a spouse without the purview of an escrow or title insurance company. It's called an uninsured deed because it happens outside of an uninsured transaction. We've got solar issues, we got mechanics lien issues, we got all kinds of issues.
Yeah, I think right now a big one that we've seen a lot of problems with, Tua, has been solar. A lot of solar companies have gone out of business,
Oh, wow.
and they have servicing companies that have taken them over, and they are just so inundated with all the backlogs of these solar companies that have gone bankrupt or that have gone under, that we have been running up huge challenges with dealing with the solar companies, but we're finding solutions through them. Takes a little bit longer in the closing process because we still need to get the documentation, but that has been one challenge that we've been overcoming just a lot recently, has been solar.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
No shortage of challenges, but we don't just have tissues for your issues. We have solutions. We have solutions, and we've got solutions-oriented people like Haylie and others that research this stuff and help us find and drive towards a solution.
Perfect, thank you. Now, how do you handle communication and updates through the title process?
Wow, man, any means necessary.
Flare guns, carrier pigeons. Yeah.
Signal fires. No, we have a certain protocol that we follow on the units as well as through underwriting and all the way down to the sales side of things, where we get involved and update the customer with any issues that we have or anything that we see looming that would be like a child support lien where you have to interface with the Superior Court of San Diego that could take time and add to the timetable of a transaction. We get out in front of that, but we definitely notify all parties. And a lot of the communication is done from the title to the escrow, then escrow disperses to everyone. But there's certainly protocols and standard operating procedures.
Yeah, and so thankfully too, with all this technology and stuff coming into play now, we're able to have more systems in place where we're able to really track the flow of transactions through escrow, through the lender, through title. But our most important thing is, really making sure that the closing is set up that day. So we are very involved on closing days, making sure that the wire gets in from the lender and that we notify all the parties when the transaction's closed. That's one of my favorite calls to make.
Yeah, all the way to closing and beyond. We have service, any cleanup on aisle 7 as it might pertain to the deal, or any questions buyers have moving forward. When will I get my policy? When do I get a copy of my grant deed? All those things, and tie up those loose ends for the customer.
Very nice. Now, you mentioned escrow quite a bit in a lot of your responses. Now, how do you coordinate with the escrow officers, lenders, real estate agents during the actual transaction?
All the time and frequently.
Yes, it is a lot of moving parts throughout the back end, but that's why you work with a great team where you have an amazing escrow officer with amazing title people. Escrow really, really drives the ship on what needs to be cleaned up, when the timetables are. They're the ones really correlating back and forth with the lender on timeframes and making sure all the documentation are there. And then escrow tells us, hey, we have what we need. We're ready to close. Lender got clear to close. Here's the wire amount. The lender then funds to us. We get all the funds in, and as soon as we get the buyer's funds, we can release the recording with the county and close it. So it's a lot of moving parts, but we're all in sync throughout the entire transaction. Escrow's emailing title, title's emailing the lender, lender's emailing title. Everybody is in full communication during that process.
Yeah, it's a tired carrier pigeon there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's a hub of information, and it makes it to all parties through emails, calls, fax, text, you name
We
it.
still fax things, yes.
And the team has one goal, is to close as smoothly as possible. And so that team, rounded up for that particular transaction, has to work together in fluid communication so that information is known as close to real time as possible, so that responses can be generated. And you have lender underwriters that have lender conditions. You have title underwriters that have title conditions, and these things need to be met. So the quicker that people can know and get to work on getting the documentation to satisfy those conditions, the better. And so you run out of bandwidth at about 30, 40 files for an escrow officer without help. And so it's a clear communication with a method for that and strategies.
Thank you. Now, what are the most common reasons for delays in the title process, and how do you mitigate these?
Well, there's no shortage of challenges through anything, right? Through life in general. So for us, we typically see a lot of liens that come up on people's statement of information, if they have tax liens or if they have IRS liens. Those typically take a little bit longer because we're dealing with the courts and having to get the demands. Nothing is more delayed other than when we have a open order and the listing agent calls and says, "Oh, by the way, that person's passed away," and we're like, "Oh, well, by the way, that's going to be a lot longer of a process. We're now in probate, meaning the person passed away without the property in a trust." Which that takes courts involvement. That takes that could be a 12-month process. But to get in ahead of it, what we do is we pull the entire prelim right when our listing agents get that listing contract signed. We even do due diligence prior to, so they know that their person is signing is who they have on title.
Right.
So we help them with that. And then one thing, I know Ryan will agree on this, is having that statement of information. We tell all of our clients to get us that statement of information as soon as possible, because that could be one thing where we get it day of closing with the social security number of the buyer or seller. We run it, and then there's another lien that comes up on their social that wasn't on their APN. We have to clear that up still before we can issue the incoming buyer free and clear title. So those have been things that delay. And we always say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So just always get the statement of information ahead of time.
I'd say there's one thing, it's information. It makes the deal go and it makes the deal die. I mean, because lack of information leads for these haymaker surprises that you can sometimes not recover from in a transaction, or cloudy information where maybe the seller doesn't know that you were going to find out everything. Every tax lien, every child support lien.
All the skeletons in the closet come out when you're in a transaction.
Yeah, so I mean, cloudy or misinformation or lack of information costs you time, and time kills deals. So I think that what she said, getting all the APN and the social securities involved early, allowing us to run those in day one of escrow or before we go to escrow when we're at pre-listing status, and giving us runway. Anything can be cleared up with enough runway, whether it's the IRS, the court system, you name it, even these solar debacles that we run against. But when it's last minute and you get blindsided by a gnarly issue, it's really going to put you back and really costly to the deal.
Thank you. That was very informative. Now, can you explain the different types of title insurance policies you offer and what factors influence their costs?
Yeah, we have the homeowners ALTA. It's the maximum coverage you can get, right?
So there's the ALTA homeowners, which is the American Land Title Association homeowners policy, which is the maximum policy coverage regarding any other liens that can arise, any interest in the property. It's maximum coverage. So that means if somebody comes and knocks on your door and says, "Hey, I have interest in this property. My ex-husband owned it." You can say, "No, you don't. I have title insurance and it's insured through title that you can't come back and have any claims to that." So that's the American Homeowners Association. And then there is the ALTA loan policy, which protects the lender. So anytime there's getting financing on a transaction, there's always going to be the insurance that the lender wants to make sure that they are going to be in first position, where if anything happens on the property, if they go to sell or refinance, that lender was insured that they are in first position to be paid off. So those are two typical policies in a transaction. And then there's the
CLTA.
Yep, the CLTA, which is the California Land Title Association. And what does that one do, Ryan?
That one is basically streamlined for investors who have, it's when they get a binder, right? I mean, they purchase a binder going into a property they plan to renovate and sell for a profit, or even a buy and hold, but they can get, it's generally a lower price because most of them are earmarked for a quicker sale and within 2 years typically.
Okay.
And it provides basically a bridge of title insurance from acquisition to resale of the property. And then of course you have the refinance policy, which covers the incoming lender. I don't know that it has, I guess, a lender's policy in the case of a refi. There's also a concurrent lender's policy in the case of a purchase. It's usually a lot more streamlined and lower because it's just a refinance of the loan. And so, and typically things were done within the last 5 years, or so there's not a ton to research. So those are a pretty exhaustive list of
Right.
Yeah, so you have the Alta homeowners policy, you have the Alta loan policy, that's the concurrent for if it's closing for a transaction. You have the CLTA policy, which is mainly for investors if you don't plan on holding the property for 2 or more years. Like Ryan said, it's a shorter term policy. It doesn't have all the maximum coverage, but investors are pretty safe with it because it only has that 2-year mark. So when they go to resell it, that coverage is already taken care of. So that we typically have like 3 main policies.
Very nice. Cool. All right. Now, what tools or technology does your company use to ensure efficiency and accuracy in the title process?
Well, we get involved a lot because the interface with the customer is through us, through their hired professional, the real estate agent or the commercial broker or the lender involved, and they interface with us and we act on behalf of inside of our company. So we use CRMs, for communication, for systems tools. We have all kinds of different communication methods, and
we're still very much a human business, I guess I would say. We're still very much of like, we have people that do the due diligence checks because even with AI and all this technology coming on, it's like I'll chat GPT things and I'm like, that is not right at all. And so we really ensure that we have checks and balances to make sure that things are correct, that things go out on time. And then by utilizing technology, I think it just helps us with our communication because then we're able to know exactly where the transaction's at, if we're waiting on a prelim, if we're waiting on this. So it helps us have more communication with our clients and with their clients by having more technology. But we still very much are a human business.
Yeah, we use as much technology to create efficiencies in our systems as possible, but not to replace the human oversight because there's just a nuanced knowledge that comes along with abstracting title. I mean, a bit of a gut instinct when it comes to title officers and clerks who actually look at these things every day that something just seems off, whereas AI just goes by the logarithm or goes by the code that's written for it. And so I don't know that you can ever extricate a person who has title experience and has seen hundreds and thousands of files.
Yeah.
You come to get a feel for these types of things.
Well, and like elder abuse, I hit that because that's something that an AI, if they were just sending in documents, they wouldn't know. But when you're on the phone with someone, to Ryan's point, and you get a gut feeling of like something doesn't seem right, you're able to dig into that. And I can't tell you how many cases that we've caught because of that gut feeling of like, this doesn't seem right, which a robot wouldn't be able to have that kind of feeling.
Right.
I mean, not yet, I don't think. Not yet.
Good. Now, you guys mentioned that it's a very personal business and it's really dependent on accuracy. So that's a huge thing. So this question might sound redundant, but we really want to know what are the steps involved and how do you ensure accuracy in identifying potential title issues?
Well, we really go deep and in layered investigation of the social security numbers of the owners involved, as well as the APNs on the transactions that we're abstracting and that we're doing title research on, so that nothing is missed. I mean, it's an exhaustive approach to all the way from any easements to encroachments of somebody building a flower bed that encroaches on the person's property, to a second story they added where they didn't pay the contractor and now there's a $125,000 lien on the property, down to income tax liens, property tax liens, stuff that comes from the court, stuff that comes from the IRS. Nothing can go, we don't pass go, we don't collect $200 and close a transaction unless it is pristine.
Right.
So accuracy isn't an option, it's a must when it comes to title.
Yeah, I think our claims are under 2%, I think, or something like that, which is huge. That out of a company that's been around for a very long time, our claims are such a low amount because we have ensured such high accuracy on our transactions.
That's good to know. Now, what is the process in resolving title effects or issues such as liens and easements?
What processing is involved?
Yes, what process, sir?
Well, we go through and the person or the creditor who filed the lien and is owed the money, and we can do one of two things. We get a satisfaction through them demonstrating that the seller or the borrower has paid off that obligation, and then we move forward. If not, then we can orchestrate a system by which the creditor can obtain their money through proceeds or through a portion of the cash out part of the refi if they're refinancing. So it can be all satisfied through escrow and paid out to the third-party creditor. As to the processing, I guess just the communication between the escrow and the title and the creditor.
Yeah, so title pretty much gives escrow the playbook of what needs to be paid off. So if there's liens on there, if there's a mortgage on there, title tells escrow, hey, these are things that need to be ordered demands on. Escrow then orders the demands, which is the amount owed, or if it's zero owed, it still lets us know. And then we record a release of lien on that. So that way it is very clear that that lien has been released due to either the zero demand that we received or the payoff amount that we insured to pay off through the transaction. So we notify escrow of what needs to be paid off. They get us the proper documentations to release the funds to pay off those funds through escrow.
Very nice, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, how long does it typically take to resolve these issues, and how do you communicate that process with the clients?
Well, I think it just kind of depends on the timing of what it is. So like, if it's a normal mortgage payoff that, you know, the client got a refinance through Chase, that within 24 hours, we can order a demand through Chase. Chase sends it to us. We know exactly what is owed by the time of payoff, and we pay that exact amount that Chase tells us to be paid off. Like we had said a little earlier, if it's a court thing, if it's a judgment, those could take a little bit longer, and unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the court system when it comes to that, so I can't call down the courts and be like, hey, can we hurry this one up? They're like, yeah, you now went to the back of the line.
Well, then you have a $120,000 second position lien that was with World Savings, which became Washington Mutual, which both are out of business and became Chase. So where do you chase this guy down to get the payoff? And so things like that, or a private beneficiary who loaned them $80,000, maybe a family member, maybe a friend of the family, can't be found to give the reconveyance or to allow us to clean up the title. So you run into issues like that. Again, back to communication. So with lead time, it allows us to track down those parties and get everything in order to eradicate these issues that moving forward will have to be off the title. We've got to bring satisfaction to each and every issue. So getting out and having some lead time to do that. But essentially the processing is we've got to demonstrate it's been satisfied or will be satisfied through the proceeds. Otherwise, it's a dead deal.
Perfect, thank you.